All right, so decision paralysis is everything from not knowing what you want to watch on Netflix or YouTube while you're having dinner to literally not knowing what you're going to do with your career next. And it can be crippling and it can be exhausting and it can be very scary. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with it. Let's get started. Number one, have purpose. You have to have a purpose as to what you want to accomplish. Like, what's the end goal? What do you want to get out of this? Because depending on the situation, it could be anything from I just want to be entertained while I have dinner, like a king of old, to I don't know where I want to go on my next holiday, to literally life-changing decisions. Back in 2016, when my life changed and I found myself living by myself in Paris, I decided that I wanted to go someplace, just grab a backpack and hike anywhere. And that was a pretty broad and vague sort of premise. So, Googling where to find good hikes in Europe wasn't really narrowing it down. So I didn't even know where to start. And I've never really been good at planning trips because I always overthink about these things. Like, is this hotel good? Are there bed bugs? Is this area unsafe? It's all sorts of questions that I need to figure out how to answer. But eventually I realized that all I needed back then was a long walk and a pretty place to take pictures of. And scrolling through Google, I found this really cute place called San Juan Gaztelugatxe, and it's this hermitage on top of an islet at the end of a winding rock bridge across the sea just north of Bilbao. For the purpose of getting away, walking, and taking pretty pictures, you could do way worse. So I stopped looking, I made my decision, and a few weeks later I was on a flight to Bilbao. And to this day it remains one of the most interesting, fun, life-changing trips I've ever taken. And the bajota ham wasn't bad either. And the point is that as long as you have purpose, it's going to be easier to answer the questions that you may have that will clear your decision for you. Number two, you have to reduce choice. When there's too much choice, I can't make a decision. Simple as. And yeah, it's a problem when you open Netflix, when you open YouTube, you're assaulted by this grid of things to watch and things to binge on. And it's very difficult to actually get any clarity from that. Now, these user interfaces are apparently not designed to help you make a choice. They're designed to show you everything you could possibly like. So mentally, you have to be prepared to reduce the amount of those choices. And the way to do it is to ask questions and to use the purpose on the previous step to narrow down and filter out the choices that do not fit that purpose. And again, that just means you asking yourself questions about the experience, like what are you getting out of the experience? What do you want to get out of traveling? What do you want to get out of this movie? What do you want to get out of dinner? Stuff like that. Because what do I want out of dinner, for example? And if it's only nourishment, then the answer might be like, okay, I'll cook up something quick. But if the answer is I would like a burger, that narrows your choices down, and that's a good thing. I'll give you another example. When I started producing music here at home, basically just writing songs and recording them, I had a lot of issues trying to decide which instruments I should use. And what I mean by that is every time I opened my music production software, I would be assaulted by like 1,000 different digital instruments that I could use, different sounds, different noises. Which, I mean, yay, options, but at the same time I got stuck in a loop just trying to find the perfect sound. And put a pin on that because we'll talk about this later. Yeah, there were so many options that I would spend days, productive days, just scrolling through the endless amount of digital instruments trying to find that one specific sound. And after a few hours, they all started to sound the same anyways. So I did an exercise. I gave myself a virtual budget for these virtual instruments, and I went virtual shopping. And it was an economical sort of budget, and it was like a game. So I went shopping for these things from the menu itself, and I ended up with like a couple of synthesizers and a couple of amps for the guitar and the bass and a couple of reverb plugins, and that was it. And that helped me reduce the options. So now whenever I want to make music, I walk into this virtual studio where I am only allowed to use the instruments that I have purchased. I keep doing this. That's a lot of this. So I have to do the best I can with the instruments that I do have, because I believe that limited choices push your creativity. So jot that down. Number 3, make peace with 3-star reviews. I believe that if you're on the lookout for the perfect lamp, you're always going to have problems making that choice, because looking for that perfect 5-star review item is always going to distort your ability to make a selection. You don't know what you want to buy on Amazon. You don't even know what you want to watch on Netflix before you read a review. And I get it because it's asking you to risk your time. Time is the only thing you can't get back. And entertainment services, streaming services, for example, ask that you gamble 2 or 3 hours of your life to maybe be entertained. So it's understandable to want to know more before you jump in. However, not everything has to be a 5-star review. Some of my favorite films are solid 6s and 7s. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even have watched Clue if I had read the reviews first. And that's one of my all-time favorite movies. So I believe that we all need to get past this whole 5-star review or nothing sort of philosophy. And understanding that an okay hotel in a decent area that somewhat stays within your budget is going to provide you with a completely enjoyable experience, is going to help you decide, and you're actually going to be able to book a hotel before the window closes. Because once the window closes, then that's life making the decision for you, and we're trying to avoid that. You don't need the perfect vacation. You don't need the perfect film. You don't need the perfect takeout. You just need takeout. Sometimes fast food burger will do. Number 4, check in with yourself. Let me let you in on a little secret. You already know what you want, but subconsciously, you're fighting it because of what that choice would represent. Let me explain. Like, for example, sometimes I'll go on Disney Plus and I'll be like, what do I want to watch? I want to watch a Marvel movie for the 15th fucking time. And I have a little internal fight with myself because I've watched them before. I've watched them so many times. Is that really how we want to spend 2 or 3 hours? We know how it ends. I'm not learning anything anymore. What do I want out of this time investment? But I still want to do it because sometimes it's not about the learning. Sometimes it's just about being entertained within my comfort zone, and that's fine. So the right decision is already floating around my head like background noise. I just don't want to hear it. And if you step back for a bit, you'll be able to hear exactly what you want to do. To that effect, a little exercise that I do is if I have an option between A and B, I just choose one and see what my brain has to say about it. So for example, you choose A and your brain goes, ugh, we didn't want to do that. Then there's your answer. Or if you choose B, your brain's gonna go like, oh, B, we wanted to do B. That's a great decision. So doing that little exercise sometimes helps me. Number 5, you have to lose the fear of what people will say. That's one of the things that used to block me the most. And I made this exercise a few years ago where I wrote down a mental note with the names of the people that pay bills in this house. Turns out it's just one person, it's just me. So I decided that anybody that doesn't pay bills in this house cannot tell me what I can or can't enjoy. And this has allowed me a certain freedom to choose things that I wouldn't have chosen otherwise if I was concerned about public opinion. And it's allowed me to experience things that I would have otherwise missed. The Eras Tour, for example. So I made that small exercise of who do I owe explanations to? And it turns out it's just me. There are people that you may owe explanations to, like, your boss who pays your salary, or perhaps if your parents are still paying your bills, then you may owe explanations to them as well. But if you're a strong, independent woman, there's no reason for you to consider what other people will think. Do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever it is that you want. You have permission, and you only have one life. And last but not least, number 6, just jump. Nothing can go as bad as you think it's gonna go. Most times. If you go out on a trip and it's not the perfect trip, you can still adapt and turn it into a good trip. Hotel room wasn't the greatest? Okay, fine. As long as you still have a hotel room, it's manageable. There's always plan B. There's always something to try with everything. And you have to have that sort of optimism to be like, oh, okay, I couldn't control this thing that happened, but I can control what happens from this point on. So with that mindset, just jump. Just choose an option and go with it. If it wasn't everything you wished it could be, then you can do it better next time. At least you learned something, and I can promise you, you're gonna have fun anyways. If you want to watch that movie and it sucked as a movie, then at least you've watched that movie. You no longer have to carry the desire of watching that movie everywhere you go, because that stuff uses up energy that you can use for, I don't know, painting? So sometimes the best course of action is just action. Not only are things not going to be as bad as they could possibly be, that's never going to happen, but you might even be presented, if it succeeds, you might even be presented with opportunities you never even thought possible. So book that hotel and go. Enjoy your summer. Now, a big disclaimer here. Remember, these are all small mentality and behavior changes that will eventually turn you into the person that you want to be. These are not magic bullets that will automatically fix you. Again, with the things, we don't need fixing anyways. We just need to understand that sometimes we need help and we need to ask for it. That's all. Good talk. Good talk. What's the hardest thing for you to decide? Is it picking a movie on Netflix, a career path, a cereal box in the incredibly varied cereal aisle at Target? Let me know in the comments. I personally lean towards anything with chunks of chocolate, but that's just me.